They called me the Siren Maniac, plotting to have me carted off in a straitjacket, until that savage dawn of July 4th, 2025, when my ridiculed $60,000 alarm spire turned into the single voice that dragged 2,200 neighbors back from the edge of a flash flood abyss that should have swallowed the town whole. Picture it. 3:47 a.m. The night split wide open by 130 decibels of pure, unfiltered warning thundering across Riverbend, Texas. People stumbling half-dressed into the street, some screaming my name like a curse, others already sprinting uphill with kids under their arms. And 6 hours later, the Silver Creek River roaring in like an Old Testament punishment, gulping down SUVs, splintering porches, turning manicured lawns into brown rapids, yet the body count stayed at. Sued me blind. Her palace took 4 feet of silt and sorrow, while my place sat high on the bluff, bone dry, Siren still singing its victory hymn over the wreckage. So tell me, what would you do if the people next door tried to rip the lungs out of the only thing that could save them? Drop your location in the comments. I swear your zip code has its own ghost story about ignored alarms and last-second miracles. I'm Ethan Blackwell, 52, hair gone the color of storm clouds. Each strand a souvenir from 15 years of FEMA front lines, wading waist-deep in flood muck to zip body bags, kneeling in living rooms to explain to parents why the sirens never came. And then there was Laura, my wife, stolen by Hurricane Elena in 2020. Not the wind, not the surge, but the slow, crushing weight of 3 evacuations in 24 months. No reliable alert network, just panic and sirens that lied. Her heart quit in a Red Cross cot that smelled of bleach and broken promises. And that first sunrise in Riverbend, I stood on the deck, her photo in my hand, whispering a vow to the valley below. Never again. Not one more family shattered because the system blinked. I bought the house on purpose, perched on the ridge like a watchtower, the whole town spread out beneath me, pretty, fragile, a diorama waiting for the next tantrum of nature. 3 days of diesel, smoke and limestone grit to plant the Federal Alert Model 508. 47 grand for the Siren, 13 more for the 40-foot pole, a beast engineered to punch through double-pane glass and central air hush. And every morning I'd look at Laura and mutter, maybe I'm paranoid, but paranoid keeps graves empty. Enter Victoria Langford, Lakeside Estates, HOA Dictator, 45, white Lexus. Vanity plates, fresh from Austin high-rises chasing curated country charm. Her husband Harrison flipping lots in San Marcos, red flag number 1. The day after the tower went live, she marched across my grass like she owned the horizon, claiming that eyesore violated our sacred covenants. I handed her the Texas statute that carves out emergency gear. Her bylaws suddenly looked like cocktail napkins. We'll see, she hissed, perfume lingering like a thread, and my coffee tasted like betrayal. The first test blast rolled through the hills like artillery, neighbors popping out like prairie dogs, new transplants clutching ears, old-timers nodding slow. Jack Harlan, Vietnam vet next door, ambled over at dusk, cicadas tuning up, air thick with rain on the way. Hell of a horn, Ethan said. Readiness is duty, not delusion. I'm having second thoughts. Mike Donovan at the hardware store pulled me aside. I'm with you, but she's boycotting anyone who helps. My granddad drowned in 52. He'd have loved that tower. The divide wasn't decibels, it was memory. Those who'd felt the river's teeth versus those who saw only postcard water. Victoria weaponized suburbia in 72 hours. County noise complaint. 23 signatures. Riverbend Quiet Coalition on social media. Stock photos of meadows. Posts about my industrial death machine ruining yoga. Claims the deer now needed therapy. But the real art was the whisper campaign. PTSD, dangerous, lock him up. I fought back with paperwork and geology. Alex Rivera, county emergency boss. X-***Marine***, inspected the rig. Better than half our county gear. His letterhead endorsement is shield. Dr. Sofia Ramirez from UT brought 20 years of flood maps. Silver Creek Basin overdue for a monster, historic floodplain. White SUV on camera, paint cans in Victoria's trash. I upgraded to motion lights. Infrared, redundant power. My yard now a compound. Isolation crept in. Cashiers counting my change twice. Barber asking if I needed therapy. But every night I looked at Laura and remembered, this isn't about being liked, it's about being ready. Victoria hired an Austin lawyer who billed like a defense contractor, suit for 50 grand, emotional distress, property devaluation, climate of fear. But that evening I overheard her on the phone. If this development fails, we lose everything. My reputation, our investment, desperation raw. Suddenly it clicked. This wasn't about noise. It was about burying flood risk so Harrison's 200-home Silver Valley estates could rise on land the river had drowned 3 times in 70 years. The harassment turned surgical, false police reports, anonymous calls to my old FEMA colleagues questioning my sanity. Victoria's community meeting is staged. Crucifixion, First Methodist hall packed, 2-minute mic limit, press invited. She preached from the pulpit. This man's obsession traumatizes our children, destroys property values. When my turn came, I let the silence stretch. I've pulled bodies from water that came too fast for warnings. Corpses don't get to call anyone paranoid. Then Mike stood. I've known Ethan 6 months. Victoria 3 years. One has disaster credentials. One has HOA credentials. Guess who I want deciding when to run? Dr. Hale Rose, retired meteorologist. This system exceeds NWS standards. Opposing it is like opposing seatbelts. The room shifted. Victoria hissed about fear tactics, but people were thinking now. Weather data turned apocalyptic. June rains saturated soil to bursting. July heat building pressure like a bomb. Dr. Sophia's model screamed 1952 level event. Carlos Mendoza, engineer inside Harrison's firm, slipped reporter Nina Patella drive full of buried flood. Studies, internal emails, neutralize the siren before flood questions kill financing. Mitigation costs $2.8 million. Easier to discredit the messenger. The conspiracy laid bare, profit over lives. I built a war room. Nina the investigative scalpel, Alex the official credibility, Dr. Sophia the science hammer, Jack the grassroots muscle, Carlos the inside feed. We countersued for harassment. Conspiracy, interference with emergency services, subpoenaed every suppressed study, upgraded the siren into a full early warning grid, USGS gauges, NWS integration, ham radio backups. Volunteer response teams. Victoria's bullying accidentally created the most disaster-ready zip code in Central Texas. Insurance notices started landing. 8 families facing 300% premium hikes or cancellation without adequate warning systems. Clara Benson wept in the grocery lot. My mortgage demands flood coverage or they call the loan. Victoria never mentioned this. Within 10 days her coalition collapsed like wet cardboard. Commissioner Sutton exposed for $8,000 in consulting bribes and $15,000 to his wife's nonprofit, Focus Corruption. Key votes bought cheap. Sabotage hit. Acoustic, not radio, pure desperation. Then the glitch, a software bug that could delay auto-activation by minutes. 3 sleepless nights debugging code on the deck at 2 a.m. Laura's photo. Watching, what if it fails when it matters? Jack found me there. Perfectionism is the enemy of readiness. Your system is already county legend. July 3rd, final showdown, Riverbend Civic Center packed. Victoria in full theater mode. PowerPoint of petitions and traumatized wildlife. Sutton nodding like a bobblehead. Then my tablet buzzed. NWS flash flood warning. Silver Creek cresting at 15 feet. Flood stage 12. I projected it behind her. Your timing is perfect and lethal. The siren auto-triggered. 130 decibels of salvation. Clara stood in the middle of Victoria's crowd. My insurer said we need systems like this or we lose everything. Mike apologized publicly. The room flipped. Victoria screaming, shut it off. I can't, I said. It's busy saving your lives. The flood came biblical, 3:47 a.m., Silver Creek and Maple Brook merging into a wall of brown fury. My network screamed across every channel. 2,200 evacuated in pre-dawn darkness. Coast Guard plucked 23 from rooftops. 3 injuries, 0 deaths. Captain Emily Thorne to cameras. Without that civilian system, we'd be recovering bodies. Victoria rescued from her own roof by the siren she tried to kill. Her house gutted. Insurance denied. Harrison's fraud exposed nationally. FBI warrants. Carlos whistleblower protection. Victoria bankrupt and gone back to Austin. Harrison facing 2026 trial. 3 more Texas developments under federal probe. Healing came slow and real. Riverbend Emergency Day born. Barbecue and demos uniting neighbors. Clara on the foundation board. Mike restocking my batteries with tears. Robert still grumbling about property values, but alive. Monthly tests now quieter. Emergency volume untouched. Laura Blackwell Safety Fund installing systems in 47 rural towns. Elena Rodriguez, teacher who saved her class with my warning, became my wife 2 years later. Our first dance interrupted by the monthly test. The crowd cheered instead of covering ears. 3 months post-flood, I found Victoria in the cereal aisle. Eyes hollow. Ethan, I was terrified of losing everything. I couldn't see I was risking everyone. I'm sorry, not absolution. But understanding, sometimes enough. Noah now cites Riverbend in training. Texas passed the Whitfield Amendment. No new flood zone builds without public risk disclosure and warning systems. One man's obsession became state law. So here's the question. When profit and safety collide, who gets to decide whose life is expendable? And when the water rises, will you thank the paranoid neighbor or wish you'd listened sooner? Comment below. I read everyone.